What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and boy, oh boy, do we have a good video for you today. So here's the deal. You already saw the title. You saw the thumbnail. There's been a lot of talk about the good old Call of Duty, okay? And actually, on this channel, I wanted to go back, and I wanted to play the first Call of Duty, and I had some problems, let's say, obtaining it and, figuring out how all that jazz would work. I do still want to play some older COD games, some of the ones that even I played growing up, even like the Modern Warfare, I guess Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and those were some of the golden eras of COD, and I really liked it, and I myself played it. Now, I haven't played a Call of Duty game in a long time. I actually was gifted from a friend last year's Call of Duty, played the multiplayer, actually had a good amount of fun. I don't take it too serious, but beyond that game, I haven't played Call of Duty in maybe 7, 8, 9 years. It's been a very, very long time. So I would like to go back to that golden age and play some of those games on this channel. But, this newest game that just came out, right? It's been getting a lot of talk online. And one of the things that got a lot of talk on was the single player, specifically the single player, right? I think the multiplayer, at least it seems, generally well received. But the single player is being destroyed. And from what I've seen in terms of the critiques and the analysis and all that stuff, I think it was rightfully deserved. I think the game is not all that great in terms of the story. So I thought, well, there's one COD game that's commonly been referred to as the worst Call of Duty game of all time. And, against popular belief, maybe, it's not the newest one. It's not, I don't know, did people like Ghosts? I don't even know half of these COD games. There's too many of them, and I lose track of them way too easily. There's been some stinkers in there, right? Some ones that people just do not like. But there's one that has kind of been universally just panned, right? And it's the one that's behind me right here. Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified. Now, in order to talk about this game, you need to have, I guess you could talk about it without playing it, but I did play it. But in order to do that, you need to have one of, if not the best handheld system of all time. And I want to do, number one, more games on this device as we go forward on this channel. I actually have a list now. I have a list in general, but now I have a list of this, system, the games on it. Okay, so I want to do many more of these, and we're going to, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I also want to do a video on the system itself, and that'll be separate, and we'll do that at some point in the future because this thing is legendary. So where am I going with this? Well, I think you need this, the PS Vita, Vita for life. If you watch Podcast Beyond back in the day, this thing is a goddamn gem, okay? Now, this video is not just praising the PS Vita, although it's incredibly important to talk about the Vita when talking about Black Ops Declassified, but this game released in November of 2012. I remember it like it was yesterday, and I'll tell you this, I'll probably end up retelling this story if I do a video just on the Vita itself, because this game is the game that I got with the Vita. I got the Black Ops bundle for Christmas. I actually bought it myself. So the Vita in the US came out back in February of 2012. And I actually had to look that up because for some reason I thought it was the fall of 2012. So it came out back in February of 2012 in North America. I think it came out earlier in Japan. And I sat on it. I didn't buy it. I looked at it, and I was around the internet, so I knew stuff, but I wasn't going to do it, okay? Fast forward to Christmas, and, I'm a money saver. I'm cheap maybe in general in my life, but I also really like to save money, and I did that growing up. So I put my money, and honestly, I think it was the day after. I think it was December 26th. I went to GameStop in person, went into GameStop and bought a PS Vita, but I bought the bundle that came with this gem, Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified. Now, I think there's so much I can say about the Vita, but we really have to talk about this game. Yeah, it's bad. This game it's very bad. Now, here's what I'll say, though, okay? I played it when it first came out, and I remember not hating it, okay? And I still, right now, a couple days ago, yesterday, I played it, to kind of get ready, just to kind of see, what is going on with this game. So it's fresh in my mind. I still don't hate this game, okay? I think, you hear about how bad it is. And again, I played it with really no knowledge. It came out, and I think maybe I saw reviews that it was pretty bad, right? But then I got it maybe a month and a half after it released. So when I'm playing this game, I'm thinking, this is one of, if not the first games I even played on the Vita, right? Now, you have Gravity Rush and Persona 4 Golden, Uncharted Golden Abyss, and many more, and also PS3 games that could be played on the Vita. This thing, again, the power of the Vita is unbelievable. But when you measure it up to a lot of those games, that's where COD completely falters, okay? Because I will say, with time being somewhat the ally of Call of Duty in this case, I play it back in the day. It's the first one of maybe the first three, maybe the first game that I've played on the Vita, and I didn't mind it. I did not mind it at all. Now, I got some stories with like multiplayer and stuff like that, but I did that, and I gotta be real, I haven't touched COD on this thing in, well, I guess, literally almost 11 years. I played it on New Year's Eve. I remember, countdown with my parents, and we'd have the shrimp and the dip and all these, these foods, and we watched the ball drop and all this stuff. I remember playing it, that night. I probably played it that January, and that's it. I do not think I touched COD specifically. Now, I played other games on the Vita, but I didn't play COD on it from that point on. So it has been almost, I guess, if you want to round me, like 10 and a half years, let's say, okay? So it's been a very, very long time. So I thought, all right, well, again, with all of the talk on the newest bad Call of Duty, let's go back to the old worst, Call of Duty game. And that's what I did. I played it, and again, like, time being the ally here, it's not terrible, and I don't hate it. Now, again, though, I think hindsight being, like, it's easier to kind of talk about it now. You're not in the moment. And also, to be honest, like, I lost my charger. Okay, I lost my charger for the Vita, so I had to buy a new one. Call of Duty, ironically enough, is the first Vita game I've played in years. I haven't turned this thing on in literal years. Now, I want to go back because I do want to review and do videos on, say, the Uncharted Golden Abysses of the world, Silent Hill, Resistance, Killzone. There's actually a lot of games on this thing, so I'll be doing that going forward. But Call of Duty was the first one that I've played, and God knows how long it's been since I've turned this thing on. So playing it now, without thinking about, like, anything else, is it bad? Yeah, it's definitely not a very good game, or just not a good game, period, not even very good. But I also don't, like, absolutely hate it. I actually think, and maybe it's more of the love of the Vita, right? Like, if something is on this thing, I tend to like it because I try to support this console, even though I haven't played, I guess I'm a hypocrite, because I really haven't played this thing in so long. But I think the controls and stuff feel fine. I think the game looks pretty okay. Now, again, hindsight is easier to say it now. Also, when I think okay, well, now let me compare it to Gravity Rush. And the reason I keep bringing up Gravity Rush, I think that's one of the best new IPs. That was a game designed and put out on the Vita first, and then they did the remaster and they brought it to PlayStation. Obviously, Gravity Rush 2 was on PlayStation, and I love the Gravity Rush series, just point blank. But also, I think it's just a really, really good showcase of what this can do. So, yeah, if you compare the visuals to that, or Uncharted, or all of these games, Tearaway, that's a phenomenal game as well, right? You do it to all of these games, and it's like, okay, COD doesn't look so great on the Vita. Now, one of the things that easily does stand out, that also stood out when people reviewed this thing, is the AI. The AI in this game is borderline idiotic. They have no idea what they're doing. Look, the way this game is set up in terms of its format really doesn't do the game any favors. This is like a mini game heavy, centric, whatever you want to say, Call of Duty game. The single player is just chapters, but their missions and everything is always tied to, like, ratings. So whether it's like the wave-based mode that's in this, I think Hostiles is its name, whatever it is, you're always going to be doing either waves or rounds, or they're timed objectives, or you're shooting for 3 stars. You might get 2, you might get 1. That's what this entire thing is. It's just a collection of very, very short levels. And again, either doing a time trial, or getting the best score, or surviving the most rounds, or technically the round one is getting the kills. More kills you get gets you, like, extra stars, right? And then you have the multiplayer. And that, in a nutshell, is what this game is. And, like, I don't really think that's where Call of Duty shines. Where Call of Duty shines, I think, is its over-the-top, kind of electric style single player, where things are just kind of always going on, and there's a very high pace, high energy to it. This does not have it. Now, there are, like, okay moments, like there's explosions, and there's, like, falling from windows. Like, there's a couple things here. There's, like, where time slows down. So there is stuff to do, and I don't think it's, again, like, the worst thing in the world. I feel like people really dragged it because, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is a full price game. Now, again, like, that maybe even skewed how I thought about it when I first got it, because it was the bundle. Now, technically, I guess that would have made it more expensive. See, I don't remember how much the bundle or even the Vita was, but that was probably factored in. So, I'm buying it, but I'm buying it for, like, at the time, right, for the technology. Like, okay, let's see what this Vita can do. And eventually, it becomes more than just Call of Duty. It becomes all these different games. So I can, the way I experienced it is not the way others. If you get this game and you play it and you're saying, okay, you spend however much money on it, if it's a full price, say $60 game, the single player can be beaten in under an hour. Okay. Now you go for like top scores and all that stuff, but 1 hour. And there is a story, but it's told all through like logs, like flashing different scenes. I wouldn't really call them cut scenes. I mean, I guess maybe formally they are, but they're really not. So a lot of dialogue heavy, or kind of like recording, like messages, message heavy thing, which by the way, again, like I don't care. You know what I mean? Like I'm not into Call of Duty like that. So none of that stuff really grabs me. I'm not against audio logs or different ways of telling a story. I'm actually all for that stuff. And there's plenty of games that do it well. I just don't think this game does it well. And I also don't have that care for it. And then, yeah, I mentioned the AI. The AI in this game is very bad. You notice that I think the most in the hostile, like the wave one, because like the maps are so small and you end up doing the same thing over and over. And so you'll find enemies that are kind of just sitting there. They're not advancing on you. I think the difficulty is kind of all over the place. I'm not good at these games. Now, again, like I will give the Vita credit, and I guess you also have to kind of give the developers credit because they program it. The game like operates, I think, kind of fine. You can use the front screen, so you can touch the front screen. Oh, you can see myself there. You can touch the front screen, and you can like send grenades back. That's how you can click to throw grenades in the first place. The back screen is when you zoom in. You can hold it to like pinch it, and you'll kind of focus in better, where you won't like sway as much. And in other games, I think Resistance did the same thing. So it wasn't original or completely unique to Call of Duty, but I think they, other games definitely used the hardware better. Like Gravity Rush, I do think, Tearaway. There's probably like 5 games in all, that really pushed what the Vita could do, okay? And I mean, shocker, Call of Duty's not one of those 5, but it does it fine. It doesn't do it terribly, but I think, yeah, the issues I have with this game is, I think, still generally the issues that almost everyone had. There's just not a lot there. There's not a lot there. There's the over-reliance on this almost mini-game structure, just kind of getting in, getting out, which, like, multiplayer-wise, that is what Call of Duty is good at and what it's kind of designed for, right? It's fast action. You get in, you play a couple matches, you leave, and in and out, in and out. And I think it's mastered that craft, clearly. You know what I mean? It's done it very well for years now, but I guess that brings us to the multiplayer part. So, funny story, but a couple of things, we have to add. So, I did play the multiplayer back in the day. And I will tell you, I'm looking you dead in the eye, and I'm being honest. Like, I do remember it. I legitimately, I mentioned the New Year's Eve story. That, like, I remember playing multiplayer on New Year's Eve. Now, I'm not good at these games, and I wasn't good at the multiplayer. I gotta be honest. Again, like, I didn't really care too much. Like, I didn't see anything massively wrong with it. Now, what I've looked at online is, because a lot of these maps, they are recycled and you'll see them here and there. And the maps for the multiplayer, they're very small. I mentioned the wave-based thing with enemies, very constricted maps where it's not a problem originally. I'll tell you that right now, like doing the wave-based thing, and I actually got pretty okay at it. It's not bad like in the beginning, but the issue is there's so many waves and there's just so many enemies you have to keep eliminating, and it's just repetitive. Like, wave-based things tend to be repetitive. That's kind of in their nature. But when they're so constricted and the weapon drops aren't all that exciting either, they're like the same 3 or 4 things every time, there's just not a lot there, like, yet again. And like I said, what I was reading online with even multiplayer stuff, people were complaining multiplayer maps, they are so small. And it's 4v4, so definitely more constricted. I mean, again, you're dealing with the power of the Vita here. But even though it's just 4v4, the map being so tight still makes it very, very hard to play because you're basically on top of each other. There were all the complaints at launch that you'd be spawned just to immediately be killed. Now, I feel like that's always a complaint. I feel like every year I see videos talking about kind of the camping situation or the spawning situation or whatever. No, okay, I wish I could tell you, and I'm dead serious about this too. I wish I could tell you what the multiplayer experience of this 11-year-old game is now in 2023. Sadly, nobody's playing it, and I mean that. I sat here, not specifically here, actually on my couch, and I tried to get into the multiplayer, searched for matches, and again, shocker, nobody is playing. the Call of Duty game exclusively on the Vita that's 11 years old where the Vita is dead, right? So I couldn't do it. I'm sorry. I can't bring you guys a review of the multiplayer. But overall, look, I'm kind of surprised that, like, when you go back in the Vita's history and you see all the games that kind of came out on it, I'm honestly shocked. I don't know, maybe other people maybe just don't care. But I'm honestly like, it's been so long since I've seen kind of the catalog, right, or the library, where it's like, yeah, it is actually just interesting or cool that even got some of these games in the first place. I think a COD game built for the Vita, regardless of how it is actually quite cool, okay? And I believe that with Silent Hill. I believe that with Resistance or Killzone or Uncharted, obviously. That was a huge one, right? All of these games. I think there's a cool factor to it. So is it neat that there's a Call of Duty thing here? Yes. Oh, I should show you. You know what? I'm going to do this kind of like live on the spot here. I actually, not only do I have the game, right? And you could say, well, because you could play things digitally here. I actually have it physically. So I'll show you. There's the thing. Oh my God, it's having trouble focusing, but that's the card. So it came with that. I only have a couple PS Vita physical, games. I actually have Persona 4 Golden, which is an extremely rare one, but Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified, not a terrible game, at least when you look at it in a vacuum, okay? If you pull yourself out of it, if you compare it to other stuff, if you look at the price versus the value, yes, it starts to go more into the terrible or god-awful, like you can use different adjectives to describe it becomes that. But if you're just playing it, when the thing came out, you might not hate it. If you're playing it now and you haven't played the Vita in like 4 to 6 years like me, you're probably thinking, you know what, maybe it's a little overhated, but also you can kind of see it, right? And honestly, I think that with my plan that not every month, maybe every so often, like I haven't figured out how we're going to do it yet, once I start going back and playing these other games and we'll do videos on the other Vita games, I do feel my general opinion on COD will drop like significantly because, again, in a vacuum, the mini games are annoying, the fact that everything's like structured that way, but it's not like the worst thing in the world. However, I haven't remembered the greatness, the true greatness of the PS Vita yet to be able to kind of compare and contrast, right? And say, oh, okay, every other game did it better except for this one. So we'll see how all that stuff goes, but you let me know what you think. This is a deep cut because, nobody bought this freaking thing in the first place. And secondly, I think even less people got Call of Duty. So I don't know how many people online are talking about Black Ops Declassified. I'm sure there's a couple, but you let me know what you think. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.